If you want to stay healthy and young for life, but are confused as to how, then you've come to the right place. Clean Regime, a guide to achieving vibrant health. Available at tapepublishing.com.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Clean Regime Health Coaching. I'm your host, Mike Espinola, and I'm very excited today to introduce to you a special guest we have on our show. And as you know, we're all about health and health problems and/or preventing them. So we have a special guest. His name is Jay, and he's going to share with us his individual story about having his particular health problems and how he dealt with them and made positive changes in his life. So Jay, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks very much for having me, Mike.
So tell us a little bit about your background with your health and maybe some health issues that you might have had.
If you want to get to background, we can talk about my early childhood, I guess, what I was raised on as far as nutrition goes, because that's very important.
It's usually where it starts.
So, I don't want to bury my family too much, but we didn't exactly have proper education on nutrition in my household. So, it was kind of almost tragedy what happened to me, really. I was 21 years old and I was the victim to diverticulitis,
Ooh.
which is, it's a perforated bowel is what happened to me. So one day I was getting up, getting ready for work, and just had an extreme pain in my abdomen, really bad, laying in the fetal position in bed kind of thing. And it was bad enough for me to want to go to the hospital anyway, which is, for a man, it's tough to want to go to the hospital for anything, right?
I don't like anyone touching me.
Right. So, when I finally broke down and decided, okay, this is serious pain, it was almost too late. I got to the ER. They ran a CAT scan on me, and they found out quick that I was the sickest person in the ER. I was priority number 1. So, that right there, they said, you're going to be on the table in about a half hour or less, and your life is going to be different.
Wow.
So, I said, how so, obviously. I thought I might be going back to work in a couple of weeks, and they said, months. You're going to be in a colostomy bag.
Oof.
So, if you don't know what that is when they have to reroute your digestive tract to come out of a bag out of your stomach instead of out of your anus. So that's bad news for a 21-year-old guy. That was bad. They said it was temporary, hopefully temporary, so that I'd have that reversed and hopefully be all set with it in about a year. But there was always the chance that I could have had that permanently, which is a nightmare.
Yeah, not something I would want to be living with for sure.
So this average morning turned into a lifetime change, really. I was doped up and on the table half hour later, just like they said.
That was pretty scary to go to the hospital and then, have to jump right on the table and get cut open.
Right, and when you're expecting just a simple solution, maybe hopefully a pill, a magic pill or something,
Yeah. The magic pill. So, what do you think brought you to this, tragic health issue all of a sudden at such a young age too, which
it was surprising to a lot of the doctors and nurses too. It was a disease that happens mostly to older people, so 21 was on the very low side of the scale. And the only thing they could attribute it to was just a poor diet, potential alcohol consumption, a potential obstruction of some kind, like swallowing a screw or a nail or something. But reflecting on my own history, it's pretty obvious that poor health, poor diet, even potential alcohol consumption at 21 at that point, all these things are potentials. So that's the only thing I can really attribute it to, would be a collection of all these poor choices,
poor diet choices, ways that we typically contaminate our body today.
Yeah, the doctor was pretty keen on processed food, fast food kind of thing, which my background was just normalcy to eat fast food and processed food.
Unfortunately, that's pretty typical today. The commercialization of food and the mass production of foods and the competition in the food business has been around for, 75 plus years now. So
right.
That's quite a few generations in itself that can be transformed from a cook-at-home, wholesome kind of a meal to we're too busy, got to hurry off to work, pop something into the microwave kind of a meal.
Right.
Which we're seeing more and more. Is that the kind of stuff that you guys experienced?
Being born in the 80s, we were born, that's all we know, really, is the TV dinners and the fast food and stuff. So that was life until that moment, that day, right there.
So literally you were eating like off of aluminum trays that had frozen foods.
Yeah, we have McDonald's eating competitions,
Oh, wow, yeah.
So.
Oh, we had mentioned at one time, eating bad food is not good, but eating a lot of bad food is even worse, which, makes sense. It's just a compounding effect. But all right, so you're on the table, you have your surgery. So how did that go? I assume it went okay. I mean, any major complications or?
It was a long recovery. I mean, I woke up I had 2 surgeries anyway, and after the first surgery, I woke up with the colostomy bag, tubes in every orifice, everything. Could barely move, surrounded by my family, couldn't move or talk or say anything. And that was tough, that was a bad day. So
sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, so I was in the hospital for 7 days, and basically it was similar to a C-section anyway, but it was an extreme abdominal incision, and I couldn't move. So
hugely invasive.
Hugely invasive, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was laid up for weeks and weeks anyway. I couldn't walk for a month anyway, or walk very, very long, very far.
And the irony of this is, it's not that Jay was in a car accident. He didn't, crash on a mountain on a double black diamond skiing. He didn't hurt himself in jiu-jitsu, have someone snap his knee on him or something. This happened in a development kind of a fashion over time due to what he was exposing himself to. And in this case, a lot of foods that just aren't good for you. Too many foods that aren't good for you, coupled with not enough foods that are good for you. So we're seeing this type of thing more and more today. I mean, it's becoming, common. Now, for a young guy at 21 to have diverticulitis, again, sounds crazy, but more and more today, this is what's happening. These things are happening more rapidly, and people are getting sicker at a younger age, being put on medications at a younger age.
Absolutely.
This is what's going on.
ADHD medication is in every household, Wasn't mine.
Medicating children is, a serious problem for me. And again, it's just for another show, but you can't fix problems from chemical contamination with more chemicals. You'll be hearing that out of this mouth quite a bit. But anyway, so how long did it actually take you to recover? They said up to a year.
So it was 6 months after the initial surgery where I could have the reversal surgery, where they allowed things in my body to heal, then they could go back and reconnect my intestines back together. So that was 6 months later that I had that surgery, which was elected surgery is what they called it, because it wasn't completely necessary, right? So there was some insurance jive along the way too, right?
A lot of politics and red tape too,
if you can believe the insurance company would give me red tape on that. So finally got it done, and it was the same recovery as before, really. It was the 7 days in the hospital, followed up by months of recovery. And I like to tell people that I did make 100% recovery, maybe even better, because I'm much better off now after this entire episode.
Your overall health has improved.
Right, so 150% recovery.
And so I'm going to assume, because you made the realization that it was your diet and the processed foods and all the crap, if you will, in your diet that caused this problem. I'm going to assume that you wanted to make some changes in that area, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Right after my second operation, they sent me up with a nutritionist from the hospital anyway, so that was the first kind of talk I ever had with somebody in that area. Realized a lot of things. She made suggestions about my fiber intake. When you have a surgery like that, you can't have a lot of fiber at first. So just even learning those differences and knowing the difference between low fiber food and high fiber food, that was my start anyway. So off of that, what the doctor had said about processed food and fast food, kicked all that, kicked out the sodas and stuff. That was my start, and then it was a long road to where I'm at now, of education and self-teaching, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it took us here at Clean Regime. I mean, we've been researching this stuff for over a decade, as well as implementing it in our lives and finding out what works for us and what doesn't work. So, again, we don't feel what we talk about as opinion because, we've used these techniques with success. Now, there's a lot of different ways to create vibrant health, and we want to try to show you all of them so you can try them out and figure out what works for you. So what are some of the changes? Like, give me some examples of what you'd have for breakfast then versus what you'd have for breakfast now.
Well, growing up, it might have been things like Pop-Tarts, sugary cereal type of stuff. Never any real food, you know, nothing like
Your
that.
typical breakfast stuff.
Juice, maybe, right? You know, just the basic, just regular stuff, right? Then I moved on. After the surgery, I wasn't perfect, you know, it was a learning process. So I started
Absolutely.
with the high fiber bars kind of stuff, the light juice and stuff like that, but slowly started working my way up to, okay, I need to, you know, kick the added sugars and start just eating raw vegetables, you know, fruit and vegetable, not frozen paste or purees or this and that. You know, it became
Edible products.
food. I was into the paleo idea. I like the concept, but you know, nobody's perfect, you know, I just do the best I can, but it just took on a life of its own. And after having problems, it was my motivation to learn and change. So I would say, if anything, I became a more paleo-based diet, but you know, eventually became organic, all organic, everything. So,
Which, for those of us that don't know what a paleo diet is, it really just means food completely unprocessed and as much of it raw as possible. You know, you can cook it and eat it, but you know, obviously raw foods are important as well. So it basically just truly means all natural. So when he upgraded to organic, he basically just bought a better quality of food items that are still under the umbrella of paleo, which is, in my opinion, the way you have to do it, because there's two types of chicken, there's 2 apples, there's 2 oranges, there's 2 bananas today, and one's better than the other, whether you like it or not. Some things there's major differences in, some things there's only slight differences in. It may not be as important. It's tough to know, you know, when you know a little bit about the processing and the background and who makes the seeds and how the things are grown, you can make those decisions on your own. But again, that's why it takes a lot of research. Now, you mentioned when you first were injured and during your recovery that you weren't able to eat fibers or fibrous foods during that process. Right. Now, the irony of that is, had you eaten more fibrous foods prior to the injury, it may have actually prevented the injury.
Exactly, right. So that's, you know, that's just one mistake, I guess. You know, I guess that's how everybody learns, I suppose. Though,
well,
right? So,
in all fairness, our own USDA has taken fiber out of the essential nutrients category when it absolutely is an essential nutrient. And there's political reasons for that, and mostly surrounding the food production and sale. But to keep in mind, fibers are basically what move and sweep through the colon, and the right kind of fibers actually absorb toxins on the way, because inevitably we are going to ingest toxins. We're going to breathe them in, they're going to get on our skin, you know, it's out there. So we need to be vigilant in cleansing our bodies, and fiber is a very important element. So you improved your diet, and that evolved over time naturally. I mean, it's the same for me. You don't go from McDonald's and processed foods to being an educated vegan overnight, knowing exactly what herbs to use.
It wasn't popular growing up to me. It was just, no one ever really mentioned organic food, or hey, you should eat this and that and not this and that. It was just, everybody was Happy Meal crazy, you know.
Yeah.
It was, everybody had candy and sugar in their eyes, including me.
I know in the 80s I certainly didn't hear about any organic food. I believe it wasn't until into the 90s, probably mid-90s, that it was even a word that I had even seen, not to mention, you know, even know what it meant or how important it was. Mm-hmm. And obviously over time it's become more important, because the reasons for eating organics obviously are increasing exponentially, meaning the problems with food today. So you understand the difference, obviously, between organic food and foods that are... Now, you said processed foods, like, you know, a TV dinner, or a pop in the microwave sausage and egg sandwich, something that's already, it's been cooked and put together already. So, you know, those are the processed foods. So what did you do to figure out, when you switched from processed food to natural food? Obviously at first you'd be like the average consumer thinking, well, shoosh, I'm not eating a TV dinner, I'm going to go buy some chicken and some potatoes and some vegetables, and I'm going to be doing a lot better. Which in theory you are, regardless of the quality of those items, because they are more paleo, more natural, less processed. But when did you come to the realization that there was actually a difference between some of these foods that appear to be completely natural and yet, as we know today, aren't?
Well, I guess the early days was me hunting the ingredient labels on the foods that I was buying. You know, after I started to learn, it was like, all right, well, this is something I used to eat all the time and love. Let's check it out. See the list, you know, and it took 5 minutes to read the thing, sort it out. And another thing the doctor had said, which I believe, is that the preservatives in the food are what get trapped in your digestive system, you know? They just linger and fester. So after all this happening to me, I'm all set. I don't want any of that at all. So that was the deal. I'm searching these ingredient labels for preservatives. If it has it, why am I getting it? Why am I getting a frozen chicken parmesan dinner when I can make that for myself and know that it's just the chicken, the breadcrumbs, the egg, etc.?
Yeah, less ingredients, wholesome ingredients.
So I can make the list 100 and turn it to 5.
That is crazy. I mean, you look at a cracker or a slice of bread and there's like 50 ingredients. I mean, I realize the processing, there's certain goals with processing food, such as longevity and freshness and, you know, palatability and all that nonsense. But I mean, you know, it's just, some of the things they do are really out of control. It doesn't seem like you would need 50 ingredients. I mean, if you had 5 for a normal fresh one that doesn't last very long, maybe 7 or 8 you'd think would do it, but it turns into 50 for some reason. So you made the changes, obviously, and it took quite a traumatic situation for you to make the change.
A near tragedy.
It was a punch in the face, a kick in the nuts, what have you. So it was quite the motivation.
Yeah, near death, anyway, for sure.
And this happens to people. It does happen to people. Luckily for me, I was exposed to the information and reacted in a fashion where, you know, I knew that I was going to be sick or have some kind of health problem if I don't make the changes. So,
or perhaps people around you that you witnessed. If it hasn't happened to you, I'm sure you can name somebody that has had some kind of issues that will not go away. Illness, disease.
Today it's commonplace. I mean, everybody knows 3 people.
So that's your motivation right there. I mean, unfortunately, it has to happen to people for them to actually change, like myself. But if you can witness to your surroundings and care about the people around you, then that should be enough.
Care is really the key. Care for everybody involved in whatever we're doing, which in this case would be the production of food and health products and, you know, drugs and remedies, things that are in theory meant to help us. Unfortunately, money is the bottom line with big business, so we as consumers, again, have to be educated and make better choices, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, you grew up watching the TV, watching the commercials, listening to what they're telling you, doing what they're telling you, and the outcome was not so favorable, to say the least.
Doing what they're telling you and not knowing that you're doing it.
That's it. You know. All right, so that's why we're here at Clean Regime Health Coaching anyway, to try to bring some of this stuff to light. We want to thank Jay for coming by today. It was great to have you and sharing your story with us. I mean, this is going to help inspire people, hopefully,
this
right?
This is why I do it. I mean, it took me about, I'll say, a decade now of a hard road, a long road, and to me, I hope that 10 years is compacted into the 30 minutes or so that you saw today, and you can learn something that took me 10 years to figure out, you know?
Yeah, that's what we want to do, is simplify this for you, make it something that you can do a lot quicker than we did even, by giving you all this information and the results.
Can only hope it takes you faster than it took me to figure it all out.
Before it's too late, in other words, right?
Absolutely.
All right, well, we wish you all the best. Thanks for stopping by. Again, my name is Mike Espinola. This is Clean Regime Health Coaching. Again, we want to thank Jay for stopping by. And
thanks very much.
Have a great day, everybody.
Goodbye.